There is a little-known fact. The Tudor dynasty, renowned for names such as Henry VIII and Elizabeth I, once stood on the brink of collapse after less than 15 years of existence. In its fragile early days, that throne was threatened not by a mighty foreign army, but by ordinary people within England itself. A group of poor peasants, craftsmen, and fishermen from the distant land of Cornwall decided to rise and challenge royal authority. And what sends shivers down the spine is that they advanced all the way to the gates of London, just one step away from altering the course of English history entirely. This is not a story of grand battles with knights in shining armor or of glorious naval victories. This is a story of the people's fury, of an uprising that seemed small, but became a true nightmare for Henry VII, the founding king of the Tudor dynasty. Had he hesitated for even a moment, had he shown weakness, that fledgling dynasty might have disappeared right there at Blackheath in 1497. Welcome back to Cryptic History. Let us delve into that fateful moment to see why an uprising of the poor carried within it the power to make an entire dynasty tremble, and why Henry VII was forced to crush it at all costs. This marks the beginning of one of the harshest lessons about power, faith, and the price of rebellion. After defeating Richard III at Bosworth and ascending the throne, Henry VII became the first king of the Tudor dynasty. But that crown was far from light. It rested upon a foundation still too fragile, surrounded by enemies waiting in the shadows and whispers questioning his legitimacy. Henry knew that even the smallest upheaval could shake the power he had just won with blood. In that context, a decision that seemed simple ignited a storm. To prepare for war with Scotland, Henry raised taxes across the kingdom. For the people of Cornwall in the far southwest, this was an injustice. They lived far from the northern battlefront, had nothing to do with that war, yet still bore the heavy tax burden. Frustration built into anger, and anger turned into action. From small villages, ordinary folk, peasants, craftsmen, fishermen decided to rise. Remarkably, they were not led by some celebrated general or nobleman, but by a blacksmith named Michael on Guff and a lawyer named Thomas Flummonk. It was they who turned scattered resentment into a full-scale march, spanning hundreds of kilometers straight toward London. That crowd sought not only justice for themselves, but carried a greater ambition: to challenge a dynasty that had yet to take root. And out of that seemingly hopeless fury arose one of Henry VII's greatest trials. On June 17, 1497, at Blackheath on the outskirts of London, the air was thick with tension. On one side stood the vast rebel host, stretching for miles, Cornish men carrying hopes of reclaiming justice. They had marched tirelessly, passed through countless villages, and fanned the flames of resistance ever higher. Their number reaching 15,000 gave them faith that the strength of the many could change destiny. But that faith was soon put to a cruel test. Facing them was Henry VII's royal army, some 25,000 strong, well-trained, and fully armed. These were no longer uncoordinated commoners, but a disciplined force hardened by war. When the two sides met, the imbalance was plain. The rebels had courage, but lacked organization. They had rage, but no strategy. And on the battlefield, those differences marked the fragile line between life and death. As the war drums thundered, Blackheath shook. The royal army charged, swords and spears gleaming, ranks tight and unyielding. At first, the rebels resisted fiercely, but within moments, chaos consumed them. Spears were shattered, lines were torn apart, small groups were encircled and cut down. Blood stained the fields, and Cornwall's hopes dissolved into smoke. That afternoon, thousands lay dead, while leaders such as Michael Anne, Gough, and Thomas Flaminck were captured. They knew the gallows awaited, yet their legacy remained a tragic memory. The courage of ordinary people who dared to rise against an entire dynasty. For Henry VII, the Battle of Blackheath was not merely a military clash, but the greatest test of the Tudor dynasty's very survival. He knew well that the throne he had seized, with blood at Bosworth, was still fragile. A successful uprising so close to the capital could shatter everything, embolden enemies lurking in the shadows, and turn the Tudors into nothing more than a fleeting name in history. That is why Henry did not allow himself to appear weak, nor grant even the slightest concession. When news came of the Cornish army marching toward London, Henry did not hesitate. He mobilized his strongest forces, determined to extinguish the flames of rebellion while they still burned. It was not an act of cruelty, but the only way to secure the crown and send a clear message the Tudors would not be shaken, and anyone who opposed them would pay the price. That resolve revealed the nature of a cautious king who could be utterly cold when necessity demanded. Victory at Blackheath consolidated Henry VII's power. From a newly crowned king, still doubted by many, he became a symbol of control and iron discipline. The people now understood the Tudor throne was not easily overturned, while the nobility and hidden rivals realized Henry was no weak ruler. He proved that for a dynasty to survive, it needed not only to win on the first day, but also to make hard decisions, to safeguard every step that followed. The Battle of Blackheath left a unique mark on English history, not only for its brutality, but for its deeper significance beyond a failed uprising. For Henry VII, this was the moment that proved his crown could withstand trials. From a fledgling dynasty, the Tudors showed all of Europe that they could face danger and would not fall easily. From that victory, Henry secured the people's trust and the nobility's respect, paving the way for a dynasty that would last more than a century. But if we look only from the crown's perspective, we miss the deeper lesson. For the people of Cornwall, though their rebellion failed, it revealed an undeniable truth. The voices of ordinary men could shake a throne. They lacked advanced weapons and clever strategy, but they had faith and courage, enough to march to London's gates. The price they paid was blood and lives. Yet their sacrifice reminds posterity that the people's anger, even when crushed, remains a fire that can threaten any power. The lesson still holds today. Numbers alone cannot bring victory without organization and leadership. But the will and longing for justice, even in defeat, leave a powerful imprint on history. Blackheath, therefore, was not only Henry VI's triumph, but also a testament to the hidden strength of common people when they dare to rise for what they believe in. The Battle of Blackheath in 1497 ended not only with Henry VII's victory, but also with a stern warning to all who might challenge the Tudor throne. In that moment, a young dynasty survived a life or death trial and proved it could endure. Through decisiveness and firmness, Henry held his crown and laid the foundation for his family's prosperity. Yet beneath the glow of triumph still echoed the cries of thousands of Cornish men who had sacrificed themselves for what they believed was justice. History does not forget them, for they showed that even a mighty dynasty could be shaken by the fury of the people. This story, though more than 5 centuries old, still carries lessons for the present. It reminds us that power is never absolute, and that the stability of a nation comes not only from military might or a crown, but from the consent of its people. Blackheath reveals a bitter truth. When trust is betrayed, the people can become an army. And even the greatest dynasties must take heed. So if that day the Cornish rebels had won, would there still be a Tudor dynasty for us to remember? Today, history chose Henry VII, but the question lingers, stirring reflection. Share your thoughts, for it is in debate that history becomes most alive. And if you wish to, continue exploring the hidden stories behind little-known events. Stay with Channel History, where countless secrets still await to be uncovered.